a very good afternoon. Goeiemiddag, Molweni. You still tune into Sakisi's We're Building the Nation, Bodinasi. And yes, it is indeed that time of the day. We're going into our first interview for today. So today we're diving into a story that cuts to the heart of Cape Town's housing crisis and community resilience. So I'm joined by Kopano Mashike, a filmmaker and storyteller who's been documenting life inside one of Cape Town's most significant housing occupations, and that is called Cissie Gool House. So that basically started in 2017 as part of the Reclaim the City's affordable housing campaign, and from there it has evolved into a home for 900 residents. And Kopano is here to tell us a little bit more about this documentary. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much to your listeners back at home. Yeah, my name is Kopano Mashike. I am the founder of the City of Shacks, but I'm also a filmmaker and I'm also an actor. I'm an all-round creative, really, and a writer. And of late, I have been referring to myself as a former occupant of the Cissie Gool House because I lived there for 5 nights. The Cissie Gool House housed myself and a lady called Lufono Precious Mapaya, who is not only my little sister, but also the backbone of the company and the work that we do.
Beautiful stuff. So we're not going to focus too much on the other careers because it's like many different stuff that you're doing under one hat. So firstly, before I jumped into the interview, how do you manage everything?
Oh, how do I manage everything?
Where's the balance?
It's important for us to find like pockets of peace, right? Like the balance is in me taking a hike. The balance is in me going to the beach. I'm originally from Joburg. So like Cape Town really stimulates me. The balance is in going to church and like spending time with this man who has become my dad since I've been here. That's where the balance is. And really just prioritizing, like I have to make it work, right? I've dedicated myself to this work, but most importantly to myself. So you find it.
And for the type of stories that you tend to cover, support structure is very important. And that is why it is important, like you say, to go into nature and just find that balance because, like they say, that is therapy. And also going to the beach to calm you, because at the end of the day, you first need to consider your mental state before you're able to tell someone else a story. You've spent a considerable time at the Cissie Gool House, including living there for the 5 nights, like you basically stated. So what's the first thing that struck you about the community when you walked through those doors?
Sure. I think I was confused. The first time I walked into the Cissie Gool House, I was introduced to the occupation by, he's an activist in Cape Town. His name is Nkosi Ikona Swartboom. He introduced me to the occupation and I was confused. I was really, really confused. And maybe I was confused because I had been looking at the actual city of Cape Town with very glassy eyes. But I was confused. I was like, but how do people live in a hospital? Why are these people here? Where were these people before they got here? That was the feeling. It was the feeling of heaviness. It was the feeling of realizing that this is a hospital. It's still marked, this is a psychiatric ward. And I was like, whoa, what happens here?
Definitely. And that would be for anyone that walks in there, that would be the first impression because you're not going to think firsthand that but people are living here because firstly you're going to see, but this is a hospital. So it's probably just sick people that are here, and that is not the case at all. People are actually living there. So there's often this misconception that occupations are just about like the 4 walls and the roof and this nice and cozy environment that you lay your head at. But you've also organized a Christmas lunch there. So if you can just tell us a little bit more about that day and what it revealed about the souls and the community that is a part of Cissie Gool.
We fed the people of Cissie Gool House, all of them, on the 28th of December. And it was very significant for me to do that, to show solidarity, Kids just want to have fun. Kids want a story to speak about when they get to school. We all have been asked that question to say, what did you do this December? And they must have that. And I think that's what I realized. I realized like in all of this displacement, all of this fight, there are children, children who deserve to smile, who deserve to have something nice, children who deserve to be seen, loved, and cared for. It made me realize mostly about the people of Cissie Gool House that we all just need a little bit of love. We all just need to be seen. They needed to be seen. They are resilient. They are courageous. They are strong, but that courageousness and that strength is a form of fight. They've been in protest. They are in constant protest with themselves, with the government, with the community, constantly, right? So they just need a little bit of love and they need empathy and to be seen and heard. We look at people who live in occupations and we criminalize them. We look at people who live in occupations and we're like, okay, but why are you there? What didn't you do? But it's like, if you just take a moment and you listen, and you care to listen.
Definitely, and most of them don't even have the privilege or had the opportunity to have a Christmas. We live in South Africa, firstly, so there's many factors at play. People are not able to survive in this economy anymore because of the cost of living. And here you come in and you provide that full day meal for them where they can feel, but I can feel that Christmas spirit again, because a lot of people have lost that spirit.
Absolutely.
You can see that in any household that you walk in, it's not like it used to be. That is gone. It's like, we're just going to have a braai and then the day is over. So you're not celebrating it the way we used to. Speaking about walking in there and learning a little bit more about the people that live there, you obviously also do the filming at night. So what happens at Cissie Gool's house when the sun goes down? Because that is when the juicy stuff comes out. So what stories emerge in those quiet hours that might surprise people?
So I think one thing that will definitely surprise people is that they have, Lofuna and I called it, I think for those who know or have children, Paw Patrol. The women of Cissie Gool House patrol those corridors every single night to make sure that there is, law and order in the place, to make sure there's lockdown. There's an actual lockdown system. At 10 o'clock, they lock down the corridors and everybody has to stay in their homes.
So
right?
It's like a hostel.
It's like a hostel, like boarding school. I kind of felt like I was in COVID because I was like, wait, so what happens if we're locked out? They're like, you're locked out, like you can't come in. Those are some of the interesting, things that happen. But I think it's like any other community, bad things happen in every single community. But people give birth, people die, people live, people fight, it's a normal community of people. Yeah, I think the Paw Patrol for me was like the best thing.
So there's no juicy stories that came from there that people like to share, that they feel, okay, the children has gone to bed now.
No, I think
this one is
maybe
gone,
one of the juicy stories is just like at the end of the day, the group of women, there is a lady who is very dear to my heart. Her name is Karen Hendricks. And like, she's just a girl. Like, I think that's what you see at the end of it all. You see normal people who are not fighting anymore. Their hair's down and she's just a girl and she likes to laugh and just speak about life and share that experience of her life before Cissie Gool with us. Those were the juicy stories. To be like, I used to go out all the time on Main Road. That's it. But there's nothing really.
Okay, and then just the WhatsApp question that came through. So, good day, Jasmine. What is your guest's opinion on the violence, the regular altercations between occupiers and a shooting on the 31st of December where someone has been hospitalized?
Again, that's true, right? There is violence. The shooting did happen. But these things happen in every other community too. It is not an isolated Cissie Gool House issue, right? The question perhaps should be asked, why is it that when the occupation reclaimed the city, people like Difunugwazi have reached out to the police and said, come and patrol in this place, because you know who stays here, right? We can't shy away from the people who live in Cissie Gool House. We can't shy away that gangsterism is a phenomenon of South Africa. We cannot shy away from those things. We cannot shy away that violence is a phenomenon of South Africa. And they are those type of people who live there. The same way they are those type of people who live anywhere in South Africa. Right? But how do we work together in making sure that even in that place there is safety, there is law, and there is order? The precautionary measures is Paw Patrol. The precautionary measures is police coming in and doing a walkabout, security coming in and doing a walkabout. But I don't think it's fair for us to say those violent acts only happen at that place. No.
And you still tune in to Sakisi's We're Building the Nation, Bodinasi, and we are speaking to Kopano Mashike, and she is just telling us a little bit more about her documentary, and we'll definitely find out when it's going to be released and all of that. So if you can just take us inside your documentary, like the process around that. So when you were filming someone sharing maybe their story of how they came to live at Cissie Gool, like what moments made you pause behind the camera for a minute?
It was gentrification. I think the word, right? Because gentrification masquerades as progress while it tears people apart, while it displaces people. And the continuous story of I was evicted and now my home, which used to be on Gympie Street, is turned into an Airbnb. Now the balcony where I used to stand on Main Road, on Albert Road, on Long Street, because this is where these people used to stay. It was their native lands. And how displacement and gentrification and the government, at the helm of it all, you erase people when you do that. You erase people when you use these big words to eradicate them. Woodstock should be a heritage cultural site. The people that live at the Cissie Gool House are natives of this very land. They grew up on Albert Road, on Gympie Street, on Long Street. They belong here, right? And that was it. Like, I kept saying, wait, what? And the other thing that made me stop and wait is, why don't I know about this? Why don't the history books teach about this? The South African history books in school, right? We don't need to know about the Jews and the Nazis. I think we're long done with that, right? But who is Cissie Gool House? Who is she? The actual lady. What is the occupation about? What is gentrification? What is Blikkiesdorp? I don't need to find out about Blikkiesdorp when I get to Cape Town. People in Joburg don't know this, not because we don't learn, not because we don't want to read about it, but because it seems it is a systematic thing to keep that out of everyone else's reach.
Because it's gonna basically put Cape Town in a bad light at the end of the day. So we need to shy away from this uncomfortable topics, and that is just the reality of what is happening. And like you're saying about people standing on the balcony or saying that was my balcony and so forth. So there's been increasing pressure from developers and the authority also. Now, how do the residents support each other through the uncertainty of the potential eviction? Because government wants to use that and turn it into development, and that is currently the process that's been going on.
I think people try and hold space for each other the best way they know how to. I think everybody is worried about what happens, right? So last week, Monday, there was a community meeting here in Woodstock, and the city was supposed to engage the occupiers and residents of Woodstock. And what the chairperson of the Woodstock Residents Association, she said that there won't be a mass eviction, right? But there will be an incremental eviction. And that, again, for me, I was like, okay, because even in that moment when it was said, I didn't know what it meant, right? So I don't want to say this out loud, but I also feel like the occupiers of Cissie Gool House, not all of them know what is going on because they are being spoken to them in a language that they don't understand, right? People come, they say all of these big things, and then it's like, yeah, but you're not going to lose your home because it's not a mass eviction. That's all they want to hear. But incremental eviction, based on my research and speaking to my learned colleagues, is that we are going to kick you out one by one. Yeah. We might even give you a packet of food while we're at it to make it seem like we're coming back when you're not. Right. So I think that for me is it. I was there yesterday as well. They had a protest of sort. And every time I'm there, I'm like, do these people know what's really going on? Do I know what's really going on? Is it, because the city was supposed to be at the meeting. They didn't come. And you send someone to speak on your behalf, say things that don't make sense, things that people do not understand. And then that's that. But what does it mean? I also want to know. I'm trying to hold space for myself too.
And listening by what you are saying, at the end of the day, it could play out like the same with the Blikkiesdorp situation where people didn't know where they're going to go. And you were just taken and told, this is where your new residence is going to be.
Alternative housing is what they call it. You'll only be there for 3 months, and then 3 months goes. The people of Blikkiesdorp are still there.
Exactly.
So
in a whole area that I'm not familiar with, I don't know anyone there, and I need to consider crime also plays a high role.
Absolutely.
So we're coming into a new district, and this living situation is not a safe environment. What happens?
And to a certain extent, I'll be very honest with you, the Cissie Gool House is a safe environment for a lot of the people that live there. They know each other. They grew up next to each other. That's community. I can come to your house when I need some sugar. You can take care of my child when my child is not well. You know what I mean? So when we displace them, what are we saying about the history of colored people, the history of Muslim people? What are we saying? I am still struggling with the incremental eviction. What does that mean? And if we don't have the questions from the relevant parties, that we can only assume. And you see, assumption is dangerous because assumption can inflict violence. Assumption is such a dangerous thing. But we know how history plays out, you know. I remember even sitting in that meeting and I was like, oh my word, like, this is how, from generations and generations, to find ourselves. But like, the game of the master is the same, right? We're going to act like we care, act like we give you the information that we think you need. It's the truth. You know, everything that was spoken in that meeting was the truth, but is it the truth that people...
The wording that they also use.
Exactly. Very smart, you know, and then we can have, okay, now you can clap your hands, and we all clap our hands, but I'm like, how... You know, in Zulu we say abelungu, guys. Like abelungu ba wrong.
Because you're not clear on what was being said. It just sounds like it's miraculous.
Yes.
And this is the outway, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what is going on.
Absolutely.
But earlier you spoke about the significance and the historical sites that we as South Africans are not familiar with. We don't know the history about these places. So the name Cissie Gool carries significant historical weight in Cape Town's struggle for the justice. So how do you see the residents carrying forward the legacy of resistance and also dignity, and especially now in this time where they are on the point of being evicted?
I think they carry the light and the baton forward by continuing to be in the protest. They've been protesting since 2007, and by them being there, by them continuously fighting for their homes, by them continuously, you know, opening up their homes for people to see and experience, right? They didn't need to do that for us, but they did. And for allowing someone like me to come and speak for them, right? I really have no business, but I'm here. And that's what they do. They continue to stand for who and what they are. They continue to respect and care for that space. And we're going to be right there with them, seeing it through.
And interesting that you are making a documentary out of the Cissie Gool House. Like, what is the biggest misconception you'd like your documentary to address? Because at the end of the day, I need to ask, like, what is it that you want to achieve through the documentary?
It's the criminalization, but it's also people, guys. We have to start to see people. You know, the beginning of the year, I've been reflecting and saying, okay, what do I want to achieve out of this, right? Because I'm not a politician, I'm not an activist. So what do I want to achieve out of this? And then we have these big dreams of wanting to make the world better, and we think about it as such a grand scheme, right? But I'm saying it's one child, you know, it's one matriculant who does not have the knowledge about NAFSAS, because they don't. You know, is to say you can go to school, you can do it. That is what I want to achieve, is that I want them to be better. It takes people to cycles of poverty. It takes people to end those. And those people are there, you know, that place houses dreams and hopes. And what I hope to really, really, really get to in that is to just make sure that, like, people know who they are and people are able to see themselves through the art that we make. Art is inherently political. It is inherently questioning. It forces us to see ourselves for who and what we are. And that is what I hope. I hope that everyone is able to see themselves. And we see ourselves through our struggle, because if one person struggles, we all do.
And in conclusion, for our listeners who are moved by what you have stated today and want to know a little bit more and can't wait for the documentary to be released, like, what is the most meaningful ways they can support this community and also be a part of the documentary, further documentaries that you will be releasing?
Okay, I think first of all, the the most important thing on the agenda, public participation for the Cissie Gool House ends on the 31st of January, which is in a couple of days. The link to the comments to the public participation is on our social media page, which is at City of Shacks on all social media platforms. That comment section is so important because this further shows solidarity, but further substantiates why the people of Cissie Gool House must not lose their home. So if anyone is listening and anyone cares, please go to our social media platform, Instagram, City of Shacks. You will find the link down below and add your comment.
Thank you very much for coming through and telling us a little bit about the documentary that will be released, and people need to keep their eyes on social media, like you just stated, of when the release date is going to be, because this is not something that can be released overnight. So it takes some work that needs to be put in. So again, thank you very much for coming through. I appreciate it. So Kopano Mashike, thank you for sharing these powerful insights into the life of Cissie Gool House. And it's clear that this community has created something truly remarkable despite the challenges that they faced on a day-to-day. And we also hope your efforts to raise awareness will inspire meaningful change. And for our listeners who want to learn a little bit more about the documentary or get involved, like you stated, the best way is to go to your social media handles.